Hi guys, thanks for joining again. This is another video in the series of how to draw during the lockdown period. Because of that reason, then we're just drawing this drawing today with a simple pen, ballpoint pen, and a normal piece of paper that you might find kicking around the house. No fancy art materials. We're going to look at how to draw a simple form and how to show the light falling on that form. Now, you don't have to draw an onion, but I've got the onion here as a demonstration of a kind of a spherical shape. So oftentimes artists practice things like spheres or kind of cylinder shapes, or maybe even, block shapes like that. Because a lot of things can be drawn as a kind of a composite of those things put together. And being able to draw the simple shapes helps you to be able to draw the more complicated shapes when you come around to do that. Also, I really like the circle ones and squares and stuff, because that's a nice thing you can doodle when you've got a bit of time on your hands and you're not really looking at an object itself. Also, you can apply it to simple things as well if you want to try and sketch your onions, for example, because, we do that. Alright, so starting off with the circle, one thing that you can notice is that the light's coming from one side, and about half the width of the circle, you're going to get the shadow. So if you sort of think of it this way, the circle's this wide, half of the circle's that wide. Now if you've got the light here, then the shadow's going to be about half the width, because halfway around it just curves out of sight away from the light. So let's just cut to the chase and start practicing that, and I think you'll get what I mean. So for this exercise, you're just going to need a biro, something circular that you can trace around, like so. Trace it on your paper, and a piece of paper, obviously. So let's just pause the video while you go get those things. So let's pause. Okay, great. Hopefully you've done that and you're back. Now to get started, what we need to do is just find any spot on your piece of paper, put the circular thing on it, and then let's just begin by tracing around. Voila. Okay, so I'll just pause while we do that. Great. And so the next step is, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of figure out where's the middle point, like just make a tiny little dot maybe, or just figure it out. And then you're going to get your hands and just kind of like try and pinch, or you can even measure with your pen halfway, sliding your thumb along halfway to the middle point. Then what I want you to do is figure out, put another little point anywhere on there. Let's say the light's coming from in front and above, like it was with this onion, sort of, back over this way, behind our left shoulder. So the light's hitting about here, and it must be coming from above and then going through at an angle like that, right? So I'm just going to draw a dotted line, but you don't need to, going through that way. Now what we're going to do is say, okay, let's say our light was hitting around about here-ish. I'm just going to draw a circle, but you don't really need to do that. Then it's going to be traveling all the way through on that angle. So what we're going to do is go half of the width of the circle. One finger goes on the light, the other finger's on where the shadow is. That's the turning point. Now that's going to be like, if you had X-ray vision and you could look through the thing, you'd see an ellipse shape like that, like looking right through the sphere, but you can't. So you just have to draw, like, trust me, and just draw this kind of curvy shape, like so. So imagine it's like the moon. Here's the light side of the moon, here's the dark side of the moon, and here's where the sunlight's hitting it. Now that's basically it, as far as where the lights and darks are going to go. But you might want to do that, and we'll pause it and wait. So let's pause and you catch up. Okay, wonderful. So you're up to this bit. The next bit we want to do is we want to just basically, sorry about the sound, this is on an aluminium board. It sounds a bit scratchy. We want to basically start to use our pen. And now, unlike a pencil, we can't just push harder and softer and whatever. We can just go quicker and slower, maybe lighter and a little bit lighter and a little bit harder. But what we're doing here is what's called cross-hatching. So we make lots of little lines. Now on this one, because it's a curved thing, I'm going to make it my crosshatch is like a little bit curved, but I want to make sure that I emphasize this line before I get started, because I don't want to lose track of that curvy line. So I'm going to say pause, and you can catch up to that bit there, where you just do that, put in the curve line and then do the shading around it. Okay, now if you've done that, now what we need to do is just imagine a bunch of other circles coming out around that light bit there. So that light bit's got to be white or close to white. These other bits are darker, so we have to gradually go from light to dark. So what we're going to do is, with cross hatching, it's always a good idea, or with anything that you can't erase, like a pen, it's always a good idea to go lighter first and just kind of sneak up on it. And then you can get darker and more contrasty towards the end. But since you can't erase it, you try different marks. It doesn't really matter. There's all different kinds of cross-hatching. Some's more scribbly, some follows the curve. Someone might want to do like concentric rings or dots. Everything goes with pen drawing. Don't lose track of that turning point where it goes around the corner there, that shadow bit. Okay, so I just had to put this on my lap because it's a bit hard to use a biro upright. The ink kind of runs out. You need to sort of be pointing downwards. You notice, or I noticed, that I'm starting to use quite a few like little strokes, little dashes, and then I'm changing direction, so going around the ball also helps me to keep in my mind that it is a sphere. Notice how I'm like kind of doing some quite fast and light strokes too, following that contour. Notice how that's kind of building up the tone every time it sort of crosses over a line in another direction. Or the line build up of line work, it gets more and more complex. It just gets darker and darker. And that's how you get tones. If you look it up really closely, you'll notice it's just like a really complex bunch of tones or lines. But if you look at it from far back, it looks like shading and kind of softens off. Next thing we want to do is try and situate our sphere on a surface. So if you have a look at this onion, how it sits here, you'll notice that the shadow is going away from the light source that way, and that there's a kind of like a shadow that's like darker closer to the object, and the shadow of round things is always round. But it's also fading out the shadow as it gets further away as well. Another thing you might notice is that not only does it lighter here and then darker here, but also at some point it gets lighter, a little bit lighter again. Not as light as the main light source, but there's always a bit of environmental, like reflected light. So you see a little bit of light reflecting back onto the undersurface here. You'll notice what happens if I bring this strong, powerful, colorful shape close to this one. You'll notice how that orange reflects onto the onion there. So that's the effect. That's how strong reflected light can be. It can actually be quite a powerful thing. See how now you're getting quite a lot of orange on this surface of the of the onion. Take it away and it's all gone. So let's try and have a go of looking at some of those things. First thing we want to do is draw the shape of the circle, and then remembering that the surface is going to be like coming underneath, right underneath, and then heading off in a sort of a circular shape. Now, if the light's over here, imagine it's going through there and it's going to end up way over there, coming to a point. Now, it's always good to try and get these ellipses so that they're circular all the way around, not sort of getting sharp at any point. Just try and find what you think is a good circular shape. it nice and dark underneath the circle. Lots of cross hatching and then fading it out, going away. Okay, so that's just about it. So what you can see is I've tried to get this little bit of reflected light happening in here. Darker, the shadow here, closer to it, and then lighter, fading it out. A nice gradation from darks to lights coming towards that light source. And you know, to figure out where the circle goes, if you really want to be technical, you could imagine the light's coming this way and draw a line. It's going to skim over the top of there and just hit around about here. It's going to come down, light's parallel, so it's going to come down and start about here and go there. If you really want to think about it technically, lying that the shadow is a kind of an ellipse, and you can draw an axis, but you know, I wouldn't worry about it. Just draw it. It's kind of circular, or alternatively, just put the circle coming from the side. It's probably a little bit easier. Yep, so a nice dark shadow right in close to the circle, fading out and then letting the edges go fuzzy with maybe horizontal lines to make it lay flat, and then little dashes to let the edges be fuzzy and disappear, dissolve off into the distance. The very light tones are pretty hard to get, but if you go quick and very light, just skimming the surface, and I'm using lots of different directions, although you could use a different method, you might be able to get some like that. So if you've done a few of the other drawing lessons with pencil, you'll remember that we had some tones. We had black and we had white, so here's dark blue really, and we had white and we had the middle tone, then we had one tone in between. This one I've gone a little bit further and I've added another couple of dark tones and another couple of light tones. I've got a, you know, white, nearly white, light mid-tone, dark mid-tone, and darker, a little bit of that light one again, mid-tone, and then dark, going through the tones back out, light again. So that's just a play of tones, and it's the density of lines together that makes the tones happen. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and it might be something you can enjoy doodling on a few times when you've got some spare time. The more you practice it, the better you'll get. You'll be surprised how you managed to develop the skill with that one pretty fast. I hope you stay safe and have a great week. Hopefully see you again next week. Cheers. Bye.